Leaders, management keeps things running, but mobilization, that gets things moving. So if you're tired of pushing for performance that always feels flat, it's time to shift your focus from control to connection, from order to ownership, from managing people to mobilizing purpose. Come on, let's get into this wonderful discussion. Welcome to Transformation Station, the podcast where growth meets purpose and leadership becomes transformation. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today we're breaking down a real truth. The truth is the one that every modern leader needs to hear. Stop managing and start mobilizing. Because managing is about maintaining systems, but mobilizing, that's about igniting people. Before we get into our session today, I want to take some time on this live broadcast to say thank you. That's right. I want to say thank you to you. Because of you, guess what? We have pushed past 2,500 podcast downloads. Thank you so much to every listener who has tuned in, shared, and helped to grow Transformation Station Leadership Podcast. Now that we're at 2,500, I want to invite you. That's right. I want to invite you to go ahead and catch up on previous episodes that you may have missed out on so we can push past the 2,500 mark and hit 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, and beyond. That's right. So thank you again. Really appreciate you, and I look forward to growing with you. Now, today I am absolutely thrilled because we are ending our service and purpose week. Every day this week, from last week, Monday to today, we have had a military related leader come and share with us. Today, we're ending our series with one of my mentors, an amazing leader that I can't wait for you to meet. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Colonel Morina Foster. Colonel Morina Foster is a native of Chicago, Illinois, and enlisted in the Marines in 1985. Notably, she has served as a drill instructor and was meritoriously commissioned in 1999. She holds a BS in healthcare management from Southern Illinois University, master's degree in supply chain management from Penn State, master's degree in military science studies from Marine Corps University, and she is the first female officer alumni of the Marine Corps Fellowship Program. She has commanded at battalion and regimental level and is currently the commander of Wounded Warrior Regiment. Transformation Station, it is my absolute honor to welcome at this time to Transformation Station Colonel Morina Foster. Colonel Foster, welcome, welcome, and welcome today to Transformation Station.
Wow, what a extraordinary introduction. I almost had to ask you, who are you introducing? But I guess that would be me. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Oh, absolutely. It's an honor to have you with us today. And before we begin the podcast, I just want to go ahead and say outright the opinions and views expressed here belong solely to the authors and do not necessarily reflect those of the Department of War or its components. Any mention of commercial products or services does not imply Department of War endorsement. Ma'am, listen, I'm excited about this conversation because I've thought about your experience as well as my experience in being military leaders, right? So I've
Yes.
learned that management focuses on control, pretty much just keeping the machines running, right? But leadership that mobilizes focuses on movement. So I want to start off by asking you this question. Okay. A lot of leaders don't wake up wanting to micromanage. It just kind of shows up in how we find ourselves leading. So from your experience, what's usually at the root of micromanaging? What drives leaders to hold on so tightly?
The so If I can kind of recap a little bit, because I always want to make sure that I answer what you're asking and not the
Yes.
question that I want to answer. Leaders
Yes.
do that a lot too, if you haven't noticed. But you're seeing management as control, you're seeing leaders as movement. And what you're trying to ascertain is why leaders tend to micromanage at the levels that they do, whether it's at the lowest level, and I'm understanding what micromanagement is, or they're just trying to manage everything, which turns into micromanagement. And
Yes.
as a leader, I think one of the reasons why leaders do that, and you can probably share your experience as well, is for from a sense of not wanting to fail
Mm.
and not
Mm.
allowing or empowering failure to be a part of their movement as
Mm.
well as a part of management. I think the biggest thing is we all want to succeed. We all
Mm.
want to be great, and we want the people that work for us to be great as well. So we
Mm.
think that if we micromanage those tasks of which they've been given, that success is inevitable, and it's not always that way.
Mercy. I think you really like you hit the nail on the head there. You know, there's that word fear. They say fear stands for false evidence appearing real, right? And many times we have a fear of, and I say we because we're all leaders here in this community, fear of failure or fear of loss of control, right? It's almost like we
Mhm,
think if I control every detail, if I control everything that everybody's doing, then I can prevent things from going wrong. I tell you, I have found over the years that that is like the furthest thing from the truth. I could
mhm.
run up and down, be in everybody's face, but and something still is going to go wrong, right? Because in reality, that's just a part of life. And to all the leaders who are listening and watching right now, we want to ask you as you look at your leadership, are there any areas in which you are micromanaging? And what is it that's at the root that causes you to hold on real tight? Another one that ma'am that I was thinking about when you were talking was a lack of trust in the process or the people. I have seen that where a lack of trust will cause people to micromanage. There are some leaders who I have been micromanaged throughout my career, and it was because they didn't trust us, not because we had done anything wrong. Like they came to that, they came to us with just with that baggage, and it had like a detrimental impact on the team. Have you seen anything? Have you seen that in your career?
So, yes, yes. So a lack of trust or coming into a unit or coming into command without trusting,
Mm,
because of whatever their lens or their experiences are, that's always prevalent. Most leaders, and 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 so to answer the first question, have I seen it? Yes. Most leaders don't trust first.
mm,
And so, but my leadership style, and I can't talk for others, my
mhm.
leadership style is my trust is yours to lose, is not
Mm,
yours to gain. If we
yeah.
all are a part of the Department of War, if we all are part of a service, we understand what service means. We're all
Mhm,
a part of that organizational structure, and I'm walking it down, and we're all a part of that command. We
mhm,
understand what the mission is, we understand what the task is, and we understand what our roles are. So you
mhm.
have my full trust. I trust you. I trust that you don't come into work every day to say, hey, let me figure out how I can jack things up today.
Right.
I trust that you come in with the mental agility that I am going to do something great today to make sure I move the ball forward. And I think that for the most part, a lot of our leaders, when you're talking about trust, might not give that level
Mhm,
of deference to their
mhm,
people. They
mhm.
expect it. So I
Mm,
come in and I expect for you to trust me, but they
mercy.
don't give that. And I think that if a leader sometimes kind of take a step backwards to say, I'm going to give you that. I'm going to also empower you. And I'm
Mm,
also going to trust that you're going to do and carry out the mission, that that sense of control is loosened and you
mm,
get more into the leadership and movement side of how you want your team to collaborate. So that's
mm.
kind of how I operate. Now, don't get me wrong. To no avail am I perfect. And
Right.
every now and then I find things I'm like, as I'm walking out the door to get onto the podcast, we have a big requirement that and a deliverable this due. We don't have a deadline, but of course I've established the artificial deadline because it is important and it does need to get done within 24 to 48 hours. But right as I'm walking out, I said, hey, don't forget to do XXX. And I said, you know what? XO, I know you have it and I know
Yeah.
it's going to get to me. And
Yeah.
sometimes we as leaders have to recognize that it's not them and it's
Mm,
not them above us, it's
mm,
us.
it's
And we have to
us.
empower our people to tell us, hey,
Mm,
ma'am, you're doing the very thing that you don't want us to do down and you
mercy.
don't want your leadership to do above you. You're doing the very thing to us. And we
Mm,
have to be okay with accepting and
mm,
taking a step back and say, hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. That comes with full transparency. And I'll
mm.
pause there.
No, that's fantastic. I really love the illustration that you gave. I think it's very real. And I love the fact that you authentically said, sometimes as leaders, we are the problem. We're doing the
Right.
very thing, right? That we are telling our people not to do. And so to all the leaders who are listening and watching, we want to invite you right now to have a healthy shift. This is a moment, a shifting moment, right? As you're assessing your leadership style and where possibly there may be some micromanagement at the roots of how you're leading, we want to invite you to build the trust in your organization proactively. Give smaller responsibilities, celebrate follow through, reinforce reliability. And one that's not on here that Colonel Foster mentioned was sometimes just take a step back, sometimes be quiet. Let your people actually work in their role. Give them an opportunity. And what I love, ma'am, you said pretty much, and this is the word I took from it, like, I trust you until you give me a reason not to, right?
Absolutely.
That's a wonderful framework to start from. That gives room for people to actually learn, for people to lead, for people to grow, and for there to be a shared responsibility, a community of shared responsibility. So this has me thinking, right? Leaders, sometimes we often think that micromanaging keeps quality high, but it does come with a price. From your experience, what are some of the consequences that teams feel and leaders don't always see when control goes too far?
So you leave yourself open and vulnerable for blind spots.
Mm,
Your teams will not tell you what's really going on. They will start to feed you the information that they think you want to hear. For example, you've given them a big task and they've got a nice swath of time to get it done. And you
mhm,
want benchmarks that, hey, at the first 30, 60, 90, I want you to update me. Where when you start to micromanage, and they're not getting the things done that you are telling them to get done. And maybe it's not something that is as transparent with
mhm,
regards to something you touch, feel, hold, and caress with regards to a product. Okay,
mhm,
maybe there's things that they have to, deadlines they have to meet. But if they kind of slip to the left or right and they start to get them done a little bit later, that's okay too, because you're just asking for touch points. And so, that being said, if you start to manage too much, they will be afraid to give you the information because they have a fear of what's going to happen when they don't meet that deadline. And then as you are micromanaging them, the more you micromanage, the less that they become engaged. So now they don't feel empowered, they don't feel included.
mhm,
Inclusivity is very important to feeling like a part of a team. You now start to break down what I call your command or your business. It can be either way environments where guess what, you now are creating a little bit of toxicity because you
mhm,
don't trust that they're going to get done what you need to get done. You also don't give them that space and that
mhm,
opportunity to make mistakes
mhm,
because now, and oh, by the way, ownership is out
mhm,
the window. You now own it. You've micromanaged it. You bought it. You break it. You own it, leader. It's
mhm,
now yours. So when
mhm,
it doesn't meet expectations, guess
mhm,
what? It doesn't belong to them. It
mhm,
belongs to you as a
mhm,
leader.
mhm, mhm. This is like some serious food for thought. I think we're having a real master class here right now. To all of our leaders, Transformation Station, during our podcast, we always like to take moments of reflection. I invite you to just take this in right now. What is resonating with you? Go ahead and share it with us, whether you're watching this live or you're watching on the replay. I want to invite you to share with us what's resonating with you from your own experience, whether it's past experience or your current leadership experience. And you know, ma'am, as you were talking, I was thinking about this. Many times leaders miss this. They miss the fact that over time, morale doesn't just drop, but people emotionally disengage long before they ever resign, long before they quit, long before they put the EO complaint, long before they complain. There is a disconnection and a disengagement that happens. And many times, if we're so focused on the micromanaging, we miss those signs. Why are they coming to later the work later the time? Why do they not speak up in meetings? Why do they always have a rebuttal? Why? Because there's a disconnection, there's a disengagement that is taking place over time.
And that's systemic of when you're micromanaging, you don't have that ability to make people feel included. When you're
Mm,
not feeling like you're a part of a team, you're off. I mean, that's a natural reaction to disengage, take a step back, and you're like, you know what? It doesn't matter what I do anyway, because they're going to come in and try to
mm,
rework it or retell me what to do. So, I mean, that is a natural reaction emotionally and physically to disengage when you're not feeling the inclusivity of the team in which you work within. And
mm,
it doesn't matter whether you're doing something volunteer or you're
mm,
doing your day-to-day job. It doesn't matter if you're military or you're supporting a team in the civilian in the private sector. It does
mhm,
not matter. Once you feel that what you are bringing to the table is no longer important because someone's coming over the top of you to micromanage you, you are
mm,
going to naturally have a reaction, whether it's disengagement, whether your voice has gone silent, you're now
mm,
not, committal to any, I'm not sure if my team can handle that responsibility. That's what the leadership is going to get.
mm. Have mercy. You know, as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, how many, and if you know, leaders don't raise your hand, just say ouch. But I wonder how many people have we kept from really operating in their giftedness because we were trying to control them, because we didn't want to hear somebody else's idea, because we thought the way we wanted it done was the only way.
Right,
Mm,
right, right. Absolutely. And
have
and
mercy.
here's the thing. I will say this, not to say ouch. I've been guilty of that. Yes, I have. And I
Mm,
have to take a step back. And what I would offer to leaders, if they can know themselves and seek
mhm,
self-improvement,
mhm,
go back to that team, whoever
mm,
that team might be, if you have an opportunity, and share that with them. Hey, you
mm,
know what? I noticed that I've been micromanaging you a lot lately. I'm going to take a step back, and I would like to give you the latitude that if I'm overstepping a boundary, please
mm,
feel free to let me know. I will do better within myself, but I need you to own this. And
mm,
that's the first step toward giving them the empowerment to take back the thing of which leaders could be micromanaging. On the
mm,
flip side of that, even if the leader is not noticing, if the team has a little bit of competence and they have not disengaged, they can
mhm,
actually sit down with their leadership and say,
mhm.
"Hey, leadership,
Yeah.
can we have a conversation? Are you open to having a conversation?"
Mm,
The other thing that I found, I had one of my junior officers do, is he wrote me a letter,
mm,
and I
mhm,
kept the letter,
mhm,
and I thought that it was fantastic. And I don't know if how he saw that I received it, but received it in a way that said, "Hey, Mo Foster, you need to take a step back. You need to
mm,
pull up, and you need to allow this person to do
mm.
the job from which they've been hired."
Yes, 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 yes. Ooh. And again, we pause, for all of our leaders who are listening and watching. I want to give you this quiet moment to really do some assessment right now. Are there any roots of micromanaging in your leadership? And if so, okay, recognize it and let's decide, make some commitments as we are going through this podcast episode on how we will move forward so that micromanaging is not what leads our leadership. So,
Right.
ma'am, I'm going to ask you this question, right? When a leader finally decides to let go of the micromanaging, what's the first practical step that a leader can take to start building trust and to start mobilizing their team instead of managing every move?
Wow. So the first step, I think, first step is, of course, recognizing that you
Mm,
have that problem. Okay, and recognizing it not just within yourself,
mm,
recognizing it openly to your team, and that's
mhm,
a huge step because now what you're telling your team is you have a flaw, you have a
mm,
deficiency as a leader. I
mm,
will tell you that it makes for stronger teams. It
mm,
does.
mm,
Because your people want to see you as a human being, but they also want to know that you can accept that you are not perfect because no
yes.
one is. Okay, so I think that that's the first really really big step to take is recognizing it and recognizing it publicly in a way that you don't lose face. I mean, I'm not asking leaders to go in there and sob and cry and do all kinds of things that could really take away from their position and their level of authority and responsibilities, but
Mhm,
just recognizing it publicly to your team that, hey,
mhm,
I've realized that I've been doing this thing. I've been doing the thing called macromanaging. That's important as well. Say the word. Don't
mm,
talk around it. Don't
mhm,
talk about the thing that you want to talk about. Talk
mhm,
about the issue and the concern, and it's your inability to let go, pull up, and allow for movement as per control. So
mhm,
that's number one. The
mhm,
next step I would say that is equally important is being able to express empowerment and
mm,
what that looks like to you. So for
mhm.
me as a leader, empowerment is giving my folks the autonomy to do what they need to do in order to express themselves and get the mission done.
Mhm, mhm. I love that. I love
And
that.
then,
Keep going.
no, I was going to say, and then finally, in
Mhm,
that, and not needs necessarily, there's other steps, but I think the largest one of all of those is your audio, what you're saying must
mhm,
have to match your video, your
mm,
actions. So you can't go in there and say, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to empower you. And I accept responsibility that I'm a micromanager and expect for you to go from control to movement. If then your actions the very next day goes back to micromanaging. So the
mhm.
audio has to match the video.
I like that. Hashtag match. Everybody right now, hashtag match. Your audio, what you say must match the video, what you display. That's a keeper right there. I gotta go back and watch the replay so I can get that phrase down, right? Your audio must match your video. And it's so true, because I've found that we lead by example. We lead by example, right? Our team, they really pay attention to how we execute, not just what we say. And that's what really makes the difference. Man. The other thing I was thinking about when you were talking, from the practical sense of what this looks like, define the why, the what and the why. Be crystal clear about the desired outcome and its purpose. Many times our teams flounder when they don't understand what are we doing? What are we really doing? We're doing something, but I don't know what we're doing, right? Or why are we doing this? Like, it doesn't make sense when they have some clarity as to what it is, what we're doing, what's the mission, what's the end goal, what's the purpose, what's the timeline, right?
Mhm.
And why are we doing this? There's a why connected to it. Then, okay. I understand the context of what's going on, right? Then you can have shared responsibility and ownership, and the leader won't have to control because people understand their lanes and how they're supposed to be able to operate. Another way that I've seen and that I actually enjoy is celebrate learning, not just results. When mistakes happen, treat them as fuel for growth, not evidence of failure. In this particular billet, one of the mantras that I share and I say with my team all the time is, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm inviting you to be progressive. And then I share with them every opportunity that I get. I want every opportunity that we have to learn to learn. If a mistake is made, let me know. Be honest about it. When I make a mistake, I try my best to, okay, hey guys, I made a mistake. Now, this is what I'm going to do to correct it, or this is what I need from you to help us to be able to fix this. But I had to learn that over the years, because many times, well, when I first started out, I had that societal view of leadership, like you're supposed to be firm, you're supposed to be strong, and you make a mistake, you keep that to yourself, right? You don't let them see you cry, you don't let them see you sweat, you don't admit you made a mistake. You just you figure it out on your own outside of their view. You always just show up, and I tell you, I experienced leaders who had me under their leadership and executed that way, and I did not like it at all. And unfortunately, there were moments, in my career where I also operated, but I had to have those training timeout moments to say, hey, wait a minute, this is not working. It's not working. One, is because it's not working. Two, because for me as a leader, from a psychological perspective, I was restless. I was not at peace. Something just didn't feel right. And ma'am, you touched on something earlier in terms of being able to say when you make a mistake. To all the leaders that are listening and watching, there has to be an element of integrity and honesty that is a foundation of your leadership. Because if your yes is not yes and your no is not no, and people cannot trust you, if they don't have psychological safety in the workplace, you can forget it.
Hmm. Absolutely. 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 And I would also offer that you when you were talking about the being able to, give them some room and space to really fail. That's what we're saying.
Yes.
Also give them the opportunity to ask questions.
Mm.
Be
Mhm.
prepared to answer them. And when you can't, be comfortable with saying, I don't know. That is
Yes.
huge. A lot of
Yes.
times leaders think they have the answers to everything, and sometimes you don't. And definitely
Yes.
don't make it up.
Yes.
If you don't know, you don't know. It's okay. When they
Mhm.
ask the question, or giving them the opportunity to say, going back to the why, and I want to hit something else on the why.
Yes.
Um, if there is time,
Mhm.
you always want to have a clear and concise, here's the mission, here's the end state.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't have to, sometimes you don't, we as leaders don't have the time to get in all the wickets in between that.
Mhm.
That's why we call them warning orders.
Yes.
Here's the thing, here's the objective, this is what I need you to meet, that's what I need you to do. I
Yes.
sometimes don't have the ability to get into that, the why and the what are we doing this and how we're going to get there, and all that. That is what I'm giving to you.
Yes.
When
Yes.
you are being empowered with that,
Mhm.
questions do come along the way.
Mhm.
Sometimes leaders don't know all the answers to those questions, but I
Mhm.
invite those folks that work in those organizations to still ask. And I
Mhm.
also invite the leaders to
Mhm.
be comfortable being uncomfortable saying
Mm.
that they don't know.
Mm. Be
And that's
comfortable.
something you have to, that's right. That's right. Go ahead, ma'am.
No, no, I was repeating what you were saying. I'm sorry. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like that's a whole topic right there,
Mhm.
Operating, being uncomfortable with the discomfort.
The discomfort of saying that you don't have an answer to something, you're not the smartest person in the room, and you don't know everything.
Mm. Which is
It
true.
also, and it also will create that little bit of space that you need when you are micromanaging, for your folks to understand who you really are, because
Mm.
then they'll know, well, no, this is not who my leader is. They do want me to be able to do this, but they want to make sure we get it right. They want success for the team, not success for themselves. So
Mm.
that's that little bit of space,
Mm.
being uncomfortable saying, hey, I don't know right now. I don't
Yes.
have all the answers to what, but I just know we need to do this thing. We need to get it done. Here's our deadline, and you are empowered to do it. And as you have more questions, feel free to ask, and I will ask up and out or adjacent, or what, wherever they need to, whatever space they operate in
Yeah.
getting those answers. But being able to be uncomfortable, I mean, comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Mhm.
saying you don't know.
Mhm. Yeah. And you know what, that as you're talking, I'm thinking about just multiple seasons in my career where I've seen this in different ways, right? One, I think we also, as leaders, need to understand the context in which we're working. What are the rules of engagement for where you're at? And what I mean by that is sometimes when we are first getting to a billet, when we're new to the team, sometimes we feel a need to micromanage and to control, to set things the way we want it to be, right? But when you first come into a team, your role really is to just watch, to see what's going on, pay attention, see what is the culture, right? For yourself. Don't listen to what was said on the outside, and be patient. Sometimes we control things because we lack patience, right? If you're supervising or managing a team you've been with for a while, and you guys have kind of hit like a bump in the road, things, the things are just, you just kind of hit one of those points, then okay, step back and again, assess. Like Colonel Foster said, ask questions. Give your people an opportunity to say what's really going on. Don't assume, and don't tell people what's going on with them, right? Give them an opportunity to say for themselves. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you 100%. And you as you were talking, I like to write notes down, so that's what I'm doing over here on the side because
Mhm.
I'm just taking a little nugget here and a nugget there. But as leaders, we should be constantly setting the conditions for leaders. So, what do I mean by that? What I mean specifically, there you go, you came back. What I mean specifically is when we're setting the conditions for
Mhm.
leaders, as a leader, as a commanding officer of Wounded Warrior Regiment, I should constantly be setting the conditions and making sure that when that next leader comes in, it gives them enough opportunity to observe,
Yes.
so alongside of the staff and to ask questions for that next colonel coming in. So I changed command next summer, and this
Mhm.
is huge for me.
Mhm.
This last 9 months in command, I am setting conditions. I'm setting the conditions so that when that commander comes in, he is comfortable in his skin. He
Yeah.
has the ability to sit and observe. He has the ability to learn and digest. And he
Yes.
also can look at his teams and figure out, hey, where does he need to apply pressure, where he doesn't. It might not be in the same area I'm in, because understanding this, the command that I'm in is not a traditional command. There's only one in the Marine Corps. And
Mhm.
so, therefore, his MOS, like we call it, military occupational specialty, might not fit in this realm. My
Mhm.
military operational specialty was logistics. I also had admin. So those are my strong points. I don't feel I need to really pressurize those areas because guess what? I can actually, without it, instinctively pick up what's in the realm of the left and right lateral limits, which we operate. But there are other areas that I might not be so strong in. Whereas
Mhm.
that setting the conditions for the new commander to come in and make sure that his level of control, because he'll have it,
Right.
doesn't that doesn't linger too long, and it,
Mhm.
it continues the momentum of that
Yeah.
movement and the collaborative effort amongst his team, and they're
Yes.
able to operate within that space, and he's not micromanaging. He's
Mhm.
actually allowing them to exercise and operate in a environment that does not have that toxicity that
Mhm.
is associated with someone that is being micromanaged.
So
So
I love
that's huge.
because it's almost like what you're saying is, as a leader, our job is to set the conditions and build a culture for the long term, for longevity. I
That's
love
right.
that. You're preparing your team for the next leader through how you are causing them to the culture to operate now. So then that leads me to this question, right? What system or what habits help leaders to build a culture where people feel confident to take initiative, to make decisions, and to own results? What habits help leaders to build this type of a culture?
Oh wow. What habits? So I think so. I'm going to talk from a military perspective, and hopefully I can broaden the my aperture and get to where it is applicable to both military and corporate cultures. So
Mhm.
one of the habits is having a routine. uh,
Mm,
because when you have a routine and people know what the expectations are on a day-to-day basis, it helps them operate in a at a more comfortable level. What do I
mhm,
mean specifically? We call it in the military a battle rhythm. So
mhm,
we have a battle rhythm that transcends from week to week. Let me backtrack, from day to day, from week
mhm,
to week, from month to month. And what that ends up in, it comes across in what we call a TEEP. Okay. And
mhm,
that's our exercise plan that we use across the entire year that says these are the things you can expect that will happen on this day,
mhm,
during this week, during this month, and throughout the year. It
mhm,
gives them a battle rhythm or something to operate upon. When you inject new tasks or new expectations or new requirements, being able to identify and define those things. You said
mhm,
it earlier. You said being clear and concise. If you have the time to give
mhm.
the why, so that then your teams create those habits, those
Yes,
things that you want them to do to be able to feel empowered to carry out those mission and tasks. And
yes,
and again, having that battle rhythm or having that schedule, you
yes.
know, it really guides and shapes your team so they know every day something's not going to change. One of the things that I found, and I think this is important when you're talking
Mhm,
about what habits, the habit that I talk about is creating a schedule or creating a battle rhythm. One of
yes.
the things I noticed is I have a staff that has active duty military, I have reservists, I have contractors in our formations, and I have civilians.
Mhm,
A lot of times when you come in and you are micromanaging and you don't have a schedule from what you operate on or battle rhythm, it creates a little bit of angst because
mhm,
they're unsure and they're uncertain. What is
mhm.
the boss want next? And so
Mercy.
having that level playing field of, hey, this is what's going to happen. And oh, by the way, as I'm watching it and I'm setting the conditions, I think that we need to shift, being able to explain why we're shifting, when we're shifting, and making sure the shift is natural within the battle rhythm from which they operate is so important in maintaining things like trust,
Mhm,
less toxic environments,
mhm,
the ability for them to operate independently or autonomously and feel like they're contributing to the team, creating that inclusivity. These are all things that you can do, and you're doing it on a day-to-day basis, creating that habitual relationship and that habitual physicality of how you're operating within that space. So
mhm.
I think that's the most important thing.
Man,
Be
I'm
consistent.
this is amazing. I'm smiling because I'm like, she is so 1000% right. And again, I'm having flashbacks of just of leadership, throughout the years and times where I got it right and times where I didn't get it right. And you are 1000% correct. So let me ask you this question, right? How does a leader redefine their role so that they stop being a doer and start becoming the mobilizer?
First and foremost, we've said it a million times. The leader has to realize that they're being a doer.
Mhm.
So that's the first step. And I don't think they need to redefine their role. I just
Mhm.
think they need to understand what their role is.
Mm.
If you're a leader, and
Mhm.
I'll refer to me. I'm a commander. My
Yes.
role is not to do all the
Mm,
things within my S1, my S2.
mhm.
I'm sorry, I don't have an S2. My S3, my operations, my logistics shop, my fiscal folks. I can't do it.
No.
So, so redefining the role, redefine. I would offer a different role. They need to make sure their role as a leader is clearly defined.
Mhm.
Your words from earlier, their role as a leader is clearly defined and they understand what that means,
Mm. Mm.
because a leader is a doer. A leader is a doer, but they're a doer within their role and their responsibilities. They have
Mm.
authorities that doers don't. And
Mhm.
that's the difference between the
Mhm.
doers and the
Mhm.
leader. The
Mhm.
leader comes with authorities, meaning for me, everything that happens really, really well in Wounded Warrior Regiment, and
Mhm.
everything that we fail to do is my responsibility and a
Mhm.
part of my role because I hold the authorities. Those
Yes.
people that are doers are the
Yes.
ones that do it, but I'm responsible, which means if I'm trying to do the same thing they're trying to do, we are destined to fail. I have to allow them to do that. In order to do that, I have to understand the definition of my
Mhm.
role as a leader or as a commander.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. Consider this. Build leaders, not dependents. When you're the doer, your team leans on you for the answers. When you're the mobilizer, your team learns to lead, and I would dare add, learns to lead collectively.
Yes,
You know, people want to be empowered. People want to be empowered. They want to be able to utilize their strengths. They want to have value. When we are micromanaging, we're taking away the opportunity from our team members to lead, to learn, to grow, to shine, to develop new skill sets. You know, I think about myself. I've had some amazing leaders who gave me the space to be able to figure it out. They gave me the space to make mistakes. They corrected me and challenged me now to move better. So it wasn't this punitive, like you're terrible, you're horrible, you have, I didn't feel like I felt a sense of, oh, because I don't like to disappoint or fail. But I also at the same time felt a sense of, okay, all right, I figured out what needs to be done. Let me now figure out how to move better. And as I'm leading, I'm able to lead with certain skill sets because I had the opportunity to make mistakes, figure it out, and grow and learn. And so, leaders, you don't want to have dependence. You want to build leaders. One last thing. One last thing. I've always been told this mantra: the way you know that your leadership is successful is when you go away and your team is still able to carry on. You don't have to be there physically in order for the team to still get the job done.
that's correct. That is absolutely correct. I would offer one more thing. Education is paramount. One of the books that I would offer to this group is a book by Brene Brown. So it's not a military book, and it's called Dare to Lead. One of my
Yes.
favorite ones.
Yes.
The other one is Simon Sinek, and it's
Mhm.
The Infinite Game.
Mhm.
Understand that it doesn't end with me. It doesn't
Mhm.
end with you. This is something that we need to prepare leaders so that they step into the role and they are setting the conditions for others to step in and consistently moving the ball forward. So those are the two books I would give as some educational points that they can pick up, whether they're leaders, whether they're subordinates, whether they're the doers, whatever words you want to call it, whether they're management, whether it doesn't matter. I think both of those two books are that will help shape and
Mhm.
define and identify and educate you on, how to get to being a great leader. They talk about habits, they talk about understanding yourself and making sure that you know your own deficiencies so that you're not creating a cyclic or a cycle of just toxic leaders one behind the other because you're able to identify the things that you see being the most toxic in a command, because a lot of times we can identify it and we can say, oh, I can remember, but then we
Mhm.
come in and we start to do the very thing that we
Mhm.
could remember.
Yes.
So like I said, Dare to Lead, Brene Brown, and The
Yes.
Infinite Game, Simon Sinek.
Yes. Phenomenal books. Absolutely 1000%. So this again has truly been a masterclass, right? So as we turn the corner on this conversation here, I want to ask you this final question. For the leader that is watching and listening right now, who knows that they are micromanaging, what's one simple thing that they can do today, ma'am, to start building more trust and to start mobilizing their team instead of controlling it?
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it again. They need to make sure they can identify that they're doing that within themselves. That's the
Mm,
first step. It's
mhm,
almost like, and I'm going to use this horrible analogy, but it usually ends out well. An alcoholic can't identify that they're an alcoholic till they say it out loud They
Mm.
understand that they accept it and they
Mhm.
move forward and they now start putting into action, which for an alcoholic, that might be a meeting, that might be medication, it might be something, but they have to understand that they have a problem first and
Yes.
foremost. And if
Yes.
when you can say, "Oh, I have a problem," then still you're drinking.
Mm.
You can say, "Oh, I'm a micromanager," and you're still micromanaging
Mhm.
until you can identify that you have that problem and you are willing to accept
Mm.
that
Mercy.
the folks around you are not there to hurt you. They're there to help you. They're
Mhm.
help there because you don't just as if you're a micromanager, you're not going to stop micromanaging today. It's
Mhm.
not gonna happen. You're gonna
Mhm.
slip back into that. And why
Mhm.
do I say that? I'm speaking truth to power. It is
Mhm.
me.
Mercy.
I
Mhm.
sometimes do it, but I allow my teams the opportunity to say, "Hey, ma'am, you're
Mhm.
doing the very thing that you don't want us to do, and you don't
Mhm.
want to do." And I identify and I go, "Okay, I got it. I'm taking a step back. What do you need me to do?" And they'll tell me, "Nothing right now. No action required. We'll come back to you."
Mm. Whew. I absolutely 1000% have to go back and watch the replay.
Yes,
There are so
ma'am.
many gems that have been dropped in this episode. And I'm just like, I need this in my life. I miss you, ma'am. I miss you, man. I have
I
to say
miss
it.
you
I'm like,
too.
I need this. I need this. But no, it's honestly, this has been really powerful. And to every leader that is listening and watching right now, I want to invite you to really go ahead and write down some notes, right? We've been talking about micromanaging. We've been talking about how to stop micromanaging and mobilizing. Number one, to thine own self be true. How can you mobilize yourself, right? Understand, as ma'am said, like name it, right? If there are certain triggers that you have, if there are certain things that are in your roots that's causing you to micromanage or tempt you to micromanage, then name it, identify it, and then make the choice and decision that that's not how you are going to choose to lead. You're not going to anymore. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you and put you on the spot. One final encouragement. One final encouragement from your heart to leaders who are leading today in these challenging times, right? Where we're doing more with less. We really many times are under the gun and have to execute very quickly. One final encouragement that you would give to all leaders who are listening and watching today.
Okay, so a couple of things you said. Right now, we are not at war. Thank you, Jesus.
Mm.
No one is shooting at us. And if they are, and you're a leader and you're out there, this is not applicable to you because you have a different set of conditions that you're operating under. But what I would tell leaders, because we're not at war, because no one's shooting at us, allow your folks to make mistakes. Allow your folks to do the job from which they were hired and take a step back. But most importantly, give yourself and give your teams grace.
Mm.
Give yourself and give your teams grace because sometimes we are our own worst critics.
Mhm.
We will be hard on ourselves, and then that makes us harder on our people, and it turns us into micromanagers and those things. But if you are in an environment where you don't have an enemy staring down the barrel of your weapon, meaning
Mhm.
they're on the other end, allow your teams the opportunity to grow through grace, but also give yourself grace.
I love that.
And then have a chaplain like my good friend here, Commander Benson, to pray for you
Mhm.
daily, like she does always, and that always helps. Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am.
I can't thank you enough for joining us today on Transformation Station. This definitely is a very value added and rich episode. And to all of our leaders who are listening and watching, I want to invite you to not to keep this to yourself, but to share it with another leader in your network and have a conversation with them. And you can find ma'am on Facebook. You can find her on LinkedIn. She is a rich, valuable resource that we all very much value and appreciate. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and it was my pleasure. And thank you for working with my schedule. I love you. Please give your love to your Marines and sailors over there, all the service members that you serve. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Listen, this was rich. One of the things that stood out to me from today's episode is that leadership isn't just about managing what it is, it's about mobilizing what's possible. You and I, we don't have to have all the answers. We just have to create the momentum for others to move with us. If this conversation sparked something in you, if something resonated with you, I'm going to invite you to share this episode with somebody who's ready to lead beyond maintenance and step into mobilization today. Subscribe to Transformation Station on Apple, on Spotify, or Buzzsprout, and join a community of leaders who are learning to move with purpose and not pressure. Every Monday and Wednesday, we have episodes here that we want to invite you to join. This Wednesday, I invite you to join me as I talk to Dr. Naima Alatunji. She is going to talk to us about how to lead while on empty. Many of us are feeling empty because of all the things that are going on right now, but she's going to talk to us about how to thrive, not just survive, even when we are on empty. Well, listen, I want to invite you to keep on being true to you. And until next time, keep on leading with purpose, keep on leading with impact, and remember, transformation happens one movement at a time. I'll see you soon.